The Great Hall of the Galactic Council hung in the void like a massive crystal sphere. Inside, 12 thrones circled the central platform, each one occupied by a representative of the elder species. These were the races that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, the ancient civilizations that had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a shore. Commander Dae-hyun stood in the center of the platform, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and technological displays of the alien delegates around him. His face remained calm, but his heart beat faster than usual. He knew this meeting would change everything. The Salth representative spoke first. Its scaled body shifted on the throne, and its voice came through the translator as a low hiss. "Human, your species has violated the ancient laws. We have detected gravitational distortions near your homeworld. These patterns match forbidden technologies. Explain yourself." Dae-hyun had prepared for this moment. He had spent 3 weeks traveling to council space, rehearsing every word. But now, standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, he felt the weight of their attention pressing down on him like a physical force. "Honored Council," he began, his voice steady. "Humanity respectfully requests time to gather evidence and present our findings. The distortions you mention are not weapons. We have no desire to break the galactic accord." A sound like breaking glass filled the hall. The Varim delegate, a being made of living crystal, was laughing. "Not weapons. Young human. Your species has been in space for merely 3 centuries. You stumble through the galaxy like children in the dark, and now you expect us to believe you have discovered something we cannot identify." Other delegates joined the laughter. The Ilum representative, a cloud of glowing gas contained in a force field, pulsed with colors that the translator interpreted as amusement. Only a few remained silent, watching Dae-hyun with what might have been curiosity. Dae-hyun waited for the noise to fade. He had learned patience in his years as a soldier before becoming a diplomat. "I understand your skepticism," he said, "but I ask for 7 days to bring proof of our innocence." The Salth delegate's eyes narrowed. 3 days. Not 1 hour more. If you cannot explain these distortions, humanity will be placed under immediate quarantine. Your ships will be confined to your system. Your trade will cease. You will be isolated until we determine you are not a threat. Dae-hyun wanted to argue, to demand more time, but he knew it would be useless. The council had made its decision. He bowed slightly. 3 days. We will return with answers. As he turned to leave, the Varim delegate spoke again. "Human, you should know that we are not without mercy. We are giving you a chance to prove yourselves. Do not waste it." Dae-hyun walked through the long corridor that led back to the docking bay. His footsteps echoed in the empty space. Through the transparent walls, he could see hundreds of ships floating in the darkness, vessels from every corner of the galaxy. But he also saw something else, something that made his stomach tighten with worry. Military ships. Dozens of them, all bearing the marks of different alien fleets. Captain Bora was waiting for him at the airlock of the UNS Resolve. She was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. "How bad is it?" she asked as soon as the door sealed behind him. 3 days, Dae-hyun replied. "And they're already mobilizing their fleets. I saw at least 50 warships on my way back." Bora's jaw tightened. She led him to the bridge where the rest of the crew waited. Jiwoo, the chief scientist, looked up from her console. She was younger than the others, barely 30. But her expertise in theoretical physics had made her essential to this mission. "Commander," Jiwoo said, her voice urgent, "I've been analyzing the data from our sensors. The gravitational distortions the council detected, they're not random." Dae-hyun leaned over her shoulder, studying the holographic display that floated above the console. Streams of data flowed past, complex equations that would take him hours to understand. "Explain it simply," he said. Jiwoo manipulated the display, and suddenly a 3-dimensional map of human space appeared. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by dozens of colonies and outposts. But overlaying all of this was a perfect sphere, glowing with a faint blue light. "The distortions form a sphere around our entire solar system," Jiwoo explained. "The radius is exactly 50 light-years, perfect down to the millimeter. This isn't natural, and it's not something we created by accident." Captain Bora crossed her arms. "Are you saying someone is watching us?" "I'm saying someone has been watching us for a very long time," Jiwoo replied. "And whatever is creating this sphere, it's been active for at least 50 years. Maybe longer. Daehyun felt a chill run down his spine. 50 years ago he had been a child playing in the parks of Seoul, dreaming of the stars. 50 years ago, humanity had just begun to establish its first colonies beyond the solar system. If something had been watching them since then, what did it want? Send an encrypted message to Earth, he ordered. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need answers and we need them within 72 hours. As Bora moved to the communication station, Daehyun stared at the sphere on Jiwoo's display. The more he looked at it, the more wrong it felt. The precision was too perfect. Nature didn't work in exact measurements. This was designed, built, created with purpose. The ship began to move, pulling away from Council space. Through the viewport, Daehyun could see more military vessels arriving. The galaxy was preparing for war, and humanity was at the center of it. Jiwoo stood beside him, her reflection visible in the transparent material. Do you think Earth knows what's causing this? She asked quietly. Daehyun thought about his years of service, about the classified missions he had run, about the secrets he had kept. The government had always been careful about what information they shared, even with their own military. If there was something out there, something humanity had discovered and kept hidden, would they tell him? I don't know, he admitted, but I think we're about to find out. The resolve accelerated, its engines pushing it toward the jump point that would take them back to human space. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued to meet, making plans for a species they believed they understood. They saw humanity as young, weak, unprepared for the realities of galactic politics. Daehyun looked at the sphere one more time before Jiwoo closed the display. 50 light years. A perfect circle. Waiting and watching. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. In 3 days, that would change forever. The message from Earth arrived 18 hours later. Daehyun read it 3 times before he finally believed what he was seeing. The encryption was military grade, the highest level of security humanity possessed. The orders were simple and terrifying. Proceed to coordinates in deep space, do not communicate with anyone, and wait for further instructions. Captain Bora set the course without asking questions. The resolve turned away from the direct path to Earth and headed into an empty region of space that existed between solar systems. There were no stars here, no planets, nothing but the cold darkness between the lights. On Earth, in a facility buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Antarctica, Director Tae-sung sat in a conference room with 12 other people. These were the leaders of the Dark Matter Initiative, a project so secret that most of Earth's governments didn't know it existed. The walls of the room were lined with screens showing data, star charts, and most importantly, the positions of every alien military fleet currently moving toward human space. How many? Asked Young Mi, the lead naval architect. She was a woman in her 50s who had spent the last 20 years designing ships that nobody else could see. 10,000 confirmed warships, replied Subin, the intelligence officer. Possibly more. Every major species has contributed forces. They're taking this seriously. Tae-sung stood and walked to the largest screen. It showed a simulation of what would happen if those 10,000 ships attacked Earth. The results were not pleasant. Humanity had good defenses, strong shields, powerful weapons, but they were outnumbered 100 to 1. It's time, he said quietly. We always knew this day would come. The galaxy thinks we're children playing with toys we don't understand. Let's show them how wrong they are. The room fell silent. For 50 years they had kept the secret. For 50 years they had built and prepared and waited. Now the waiting was over. Young Mi pulled up a holographic display. The fleet is ready. All ships are in position. We can activate on your command. Tae-sung thought about Dr. Hyun, the woman who had started all of this. She had died 15 years ago, but her vision had never faded. He remembered the day she had shown him the first prototype, a small drone that could slip into dark matter space and become invisible to every known sensor in the galaxy. Tell me the story again, he said to Young Mi. From the beginning. Young Mi nodded. She had told this story many times, but it never got old. 50 years ago, the deep space probe Artemis 9 was conducting a survey of collapsed stars. It detected an anomaly orbiting a neutron star in the Sagittarius sector. When we sent a team to investigate, they found a station. Not just any station, added Subin, an ancient station. The materials were unlike anything we'd ever seen. The technology was millions of years old, but still functional. Young Mi continued. Inside, we found archives, data crystals containing information about dark matter manipulation. The technology wasn't just theoretical. It was complete, tested, proven. Whoever built that station had mastered the ability to interact with dark matter as easily as we interact with normal matter. Taesung remembered seeing the first images from that station. The architecture was beautiful and alien, designed by minds that thought in ways humans couldn't imagine. But the technology, that was universal. Physics worked the same everywhere in the universe. Dr. Hyan assembled a team, Youngmi said. The best scientists, engineers, and theorists humanity had. They worked in absolute secrecy. It took them 10 years just to understand the basics. Another 10 to build the first functional prototype. And then we realized what we had, Taesung finished. The ability to manipulate 85% of the universe's mass. Dark matter surrounds everything, passes through everything, but the elder species can't detect it or use it. We could build ships that exist partially in dark matter space, invisible, untouchable, capable of appearing anywhere without warning. Subin brought up another display. This one showed the construction facilities scattered throughout human space. Hidden in asteroid fields, buried in moons, disguised as mining operations, hundreds of locations all working toward a single goal. We have 3,742 vessels, Subin reported, ranging from small fighters to massive carriers, each one capable of phasing between normal space and dark matter space, each one equipped with gravitational weapons that can affect normal matter while remaining invisible. And the elder species have no idea, Youngmi added with a slight smile. They see our conventional fleet and think that's all we have. They don't know that every ship they've ever scanned, every defense installation they've cataloged, it's all just a distraction. Taesung made his decision. He walked to the communication console and entered his authorization code. Send the activation protocol. All ships, all facilities. Begin the awakening sequence. Across human space, encrypted signals reached destinations that had waited decades for this moment. On a moon orbiting Jupiter, massive hangar doors opened for the first time, releasing vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. In an asteroid field near Mars, ships detached from their moorings and began to phase between realities, flickering in and out of visibility. Youngmi watched the status reports flood in. Activation is proceeding smoothly. 98% of the fleet is responding. Estimated time to full deployment, 6 hours. What about Commander Dae-hyun? Subin asked. Taesung had already thought about this. Dae-hyun was a good man, a capable officer, but he didn't know about the Dark Matter Initiative. Very few people did. Send him to the rendezvous point. He deserves to see this. He's been serving humanity without knowing our full strength. It's time he learned the truth. On the resolve, Dae-hyun stood on the bridge and watched as space itself began to change. At first it was subtle, just a slight shimmer in the darkness. Then it became more obvious. Ships were appearing, dozens of them, hundreds of them, materializing from nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. Captain, Jiwoo said, her voice filled with shock. I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. They're similar to the sphere around Earth, but smaller, more concentrated, and they're moving. Bora stared at the view screen. Those are ships. Human ships. But they're not in our database. Where did they come from? A communication request appeared on the console. Dae-hyun accepted it, and Director Taesung's face filled the screen. Commander, Taesung said, I apologize for keeping you in the dark. But there are things about humanity's capabilities that very few people know. What you're seeing is the dark matter fleet. For 50 years, we've been preparing for the day when the galaxy would challenge us. That day has arrived. Dae-hyun felt his world shift. All his years of service, all his missions, and he had never known that humanity possessed such power. How many ships? Nearly 4,000, Taesung replied. And they operate on principles the elder species have never imagined. The alien fleet's coming to intimidate us, they have no idea what they're facing. On the view screen, more ships continued to appear, an armada that grew larger with each passing minute. They were dark, angular, beautiful in a way that conventional ships could never match. They looked like pieces of the night sky had been carved into vessel shapes. The council gave us 3 days, Dae-hyun said. What are we going to do? Taesung's expression was calm but determined. We're going to give them a demonstration they will never forget. The galaxy thinks humanity is weak. It's time we showed them the truth. The activation continued, and humanity's hidden strength emerged from the shadows, where it had waited for half a century. The alien armada arrived at the boundary of human space exactly on schedule. 10,000 warships spread across the darkness like a metal ocean, each one bristling with weapons that could turn planets into dust. The Salt had brought their dreadnoughts, massive vessels shaped like coiled serpents. The Varim had deployed their crystal ships that could redirect energy weapons back at their source. The Ilum floated in their containment vessels, ready to phase through solid matter and disable systems from within. Admiral Jehun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the alien fleet on his displays. He was a man in his 60s with gray hair and scars from battles fought long ago. But those battles had been against pirates and raiders, small conflicts that meant nothing compared to what was about to happen. This would be the moment that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. "All ships report ready," said Kyung-soo, the communications officer. He was young, barely out of the academy, but his voice remained steady despite the fear that everyone on the bridge could feel. "And the aliens?" Jae-hoon asked. Sung-hee, the tactical officer, studied her screens. "They're holding position at the boundary. No aggressive movements yet. I think they're waiting for us to surrender." Jae-hoon allowed himself a small smile. The elder species were so confident, so sure of their superiority. They had ruled the galaxy for millions of years without serious challenge. They had forgotten what it meant to face the unknown. "Send the activation signal," he ordered. "All ships phase into normal space on my mark." 3, 2, 1 mark. Space itself began to shimmer. It started as a slight distortion, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then the distortions grew stronger, spreading across thousands of kilometers. The alien sensors went wild, detecting gravitational anomalies everywhere at once. And then the human fleet appeared. They didn't emerge gradually. One moment there was empty space, the next moment there were thousands of ships. They were dark, so dark that they seemed to be holes in reality where stars should be visible. Their hulls absorbed light instead of reflecting it, making them look like pieces of the void had taken shape. On the Salt flagship, alarms screamed warnings. "Impossible," hissed the commander. "There were no ships there. Our sensors detected nothing. How can they just appear?" The Varim fleet tried to analyze the human vessels, but their instruments returned nonsensical data. The ships seemed to exist in multiple places at once, flickering between states of matter that shouldn't be possible. The Ilum commander pulsed with colors that indicated confusion and fear. "They're using technology we don't recognize. These ships, they're not fully in normal space. They're touching something else, something we can't perceive." Admiral Jae-hoon opened communications on all frequencies. His face appeared on every screen in the alien armada, calm and professional. "I am Admiral Jae-hoon of the Human Defense Force. For 50 years we have watched you watch us. We have prepared not for conquest, but for the moment when we would no longer be dismissed. The galaxy believed humanity was young, weak, untested. You were wrong." In the fighter bay of the flagship, Ha-yoon completed her pre-flight checks. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, chosen specifically for this demonstration. Her fighter was small, barely 20 meters long, but it contained the same dark matter technology as the larger ships. "Green Squadron, you are cleared for launch," came the order from the bridge. Ha-yoon's fighter shot out of the bay, followed by 50 others. They accelerated toward the alien fleet, moving faster than conventional ships could manage. Then, just as the alien defensive systems locked onto them, they vanished. The fighters had phased into dark matter space, becoming completely invisible and intangible. They passed through the alien formations like ghosts, reappearing on the other side, then vanishing again. The aliens fired at empty space, their weapons hitting nothing. Ha-yoon brought her fighter back into normal space directly above a Salt dreadnought. She was close enough to see the details of its hull, the weapon ports and shield generators. For a moment she just hovered there, letting them see her. Then she phased out again, this time appearing inside their defensive perimeter where shields and weapons couldn't reach her. "This is what we can do." Admiral Jae-hoon continued his broadcast. "We can be anywhere. We can strike from angles you can't defend. We can phase through your shields, your armor, even your ships themselves. But we are not here to fight. We are here to prove that we will not be threatened." The Salt commander made a decision born of pride and fear. "Fire the planet killer. Target Earth. If we cannot defeat them, we will make them understand the price of defiance." The massive weapon charged, drawing energy from the ship's reactor. It was a beam capable of cracking a planet's crust, of boiling oceans and destroying all life. The weapon fired, a brilliant lance of destruction that crossed the distance to Earth in seconds. A human cruiser, sleek and dark, moved to intercept. Captain Byung-ho gave a single command to his crew. Phase shield, maximum absorption. The planet killer beam hit the cruiser and simply disappeared. It didn't reflect or scatter. It vanished completely, absorbed into dark matter space where it could harm nothing. The cruiser didn't even shake from the impact. Byung-ho opened a channel to the Salth flagship. Your most powerful weapon cannot touch us. Your sensors cannot track us. Your shields cannot stop us. We exist in a layer of reality you don't understand. But here is what you need to know. We could have destroyed your fleet before you even knew we were here. We chose not to. We choose peace, but we will not be bullied. Silence fell across the alien armada. Every species, every commander, every crew member understood what they were seeing. Humanity had technology that made conventional warfare obsolete. They had become something the elder species had never encountered, a younger race that had surpassed them. On Earth, in the council chamber that had been built for diplomatic meetings, Ambassador Ina prepared her presentation. She was a woman known for her skill at negotiation, at finding common ground between opposing sides. But this negotiation would be different from any other. Director Tae-sung contacted her through a secure channel. The demonstration is complete. The alien fleet is in disarray. Some want to retreat. Others want to continue attacking, but they know it's pointless. You have your opening, Ina nodded. She had watched the broadcast, seen the alien weapons fail, seen the human fleet demonstrate capabilities that seemed like magic. Now came the harder part, turning this display of power into lasting peace. Send the invitation, she said. All alien commanders, all council members. Tell them humanity requests a diplomatic summit, not as supplicants asking for mercy, but as equals demanding respect. The invitation went out across all channels. For a long moment, there was no response. The alien fleets held their positions, neither advancing nor retreating. 10,000 warships faced 4,000 human vessels and nobody moved. Then, slowly, responses began to arrive. The Vorim would attend. The Ilum agreed to talk. Even the Salth, proud and ancient, sent their acceptance. Admiral Jae-hoon watched as the alien fleets began to withdraw to a safer distance. They weren't leaving, but they weren't threatening anymore either. The immediate danger had passed. All ships maintain current positions, he ordered, but power down weapons. Let them see we're serious about peace. Ha-yoon guided her fighter back to the flagship, her hand steady on the controls. She had been part of history today, part of the moment when humanity stopped being the galaxy's children and became its equals. On the view screen, the alien ships looked smaller somehow, less intimidating. They were still powerful, still dangerous, but they no longer seemed invincible. The elder species had learned that age didn't guarantee wisdom, and that the young could teach the old lessons they had forgotten. Space hung silent, waiting for what would come next. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other through their translators, voices overlapping until the chamber filled with incomprehensible noise. Some demanded immediate surrender to humanity. Others called for a united assault with every weapon the galaxy possessed. Fear had broken the careful diplomacy that usually governed these meetings. Ambassador Ina watched from the human delegation's platform, letting the chaos continue for a few minutes. She stood with her advisors, Wonshik and Yoonji, waiting for the right moment to speak. Wonshik was a strategic expert who had studied galactic politics for 30 years. Yoonji was a xenoanthropologist who understood how different species thought and reacted to stress. The Salth are calling for continued war, Wonshik said quietly, reading the translated speeches. They can't accept that a younger species has surpassed them. It's a matter of pride, Yoonji pointed to another delegate. But the Ilum are different. Look at their color patterns. That's not anger or fear. That's curiosity. They want to understand how we did it. Ina nodded. She had prepared for this moment, studied each species, learned their cultures and their fears. The key to peace wasn't making them all agree. It was making each one feel heard and respected. The council leader, an ancient Vorim named Crystallis, finally managed to restore order. Its voice, translated into a neutral tone, cut through the noise. Enough. We must approach this situation logically. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. We must decide how to respond. Ina stepped forward. Honored Council, Humanity thanks you for this opportunity to address your concerns. We understand that our revelation has caused distress, but we ask you to consider why we kept our capabilities secret. You kept them secret because you planned to attack, hissed a SALT delegate. You prepared for war while pretending to seek peace. No, Ina replied calmly. We kept them secret because we knew how you would react. For 300 years, humanity has been treated as inferior. Our proposals were dismissed. Our concerns were ignored. We were told to be grateful for any attention the elder species granted us. We developed the dark matter fleet not to conquer, but to ensure we would be taken seriously. She activated a holographic display that showed the timeline of human-alien interactions. Dozens of incidents appeared, each one showing humanity being dismissed or marginalized, trade agreements that favored alien species, technology sharing that only went one direction, diplomatic insults that went unanswered because humanity was too weak to object. You treated us like children, Ina continued. And perhaps we were children when we first entered galactic society. But children grow up, they learn, they become capable of things their parents never imagined. We are not asking for forgiveness, we are demanding respect. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded throughout the council station. On the display screens, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Alien military fleets had begun their coordinated assault on human positions. Attacks planned before the dark matter fleet was revealed. Thousands of ships moved against human colonies and outposts, following orders given when the elder species still believed they could intimidate humanity into submission. Admiral Jae-hoon received the reports on his flagship. 63 simultaneous attacks across 17 sectors. They're hitting mining colonies, research stations, even civilian transports. Permission to engage? Asked Sung-hee, her hands already moving toward the weapons controls. Jae-hoon hesitated. This was the moment that would define everything. If humanity struck back with lethal force, the war would escalate beyond control. But if they didn't respond, they would appear weak and the attacks would continue. Engage with non-lethal force only, he ordered. Disable their ships, don't destroy them. Show them we could kill them, but choose not to. The human fleet moved with impossible speed. Ships phased through space, appearing exactly where they were needed. At a mining colony in the Epsilon sector, a dozen Vareem warships prepared to fire on civilian habitats. A human destroyer materialized between them and their targets, its gravitational weapons pulling the alien ships away from the colony without firing a single shot that would kill. Captain Byung-ho commanded the UNS Shadow Wind in the Delta sector, where Salth dreadnoughts had surrounded a research station. Instead of fighting conventionally, he did something that would become legendary among both humans and aliens. Phase us inside their flagship, he ordered. Maintain partial phase enough to be visible but not solid. The Shadow Wind disappeared from normal space and reappeared inside the Salt command ship, occupying the same physical location without touching any of the alien vessel's structure. The human ship existed slightly out of phase with reality, visible as a dark ghost in the middle of the Salt Bridge. Byung-ho opened communications. This is Captain Byung-ho. We are currently inside your ship. If we wanted to, we could solidify and tear your vessel apart from within. But we don't want to kill you. We want you to understand that continuing this attack is pointless. Power down your weapons and withdraw, or we will disable your entire fleet. The Salth commander stared at the impossible sight of a human ship inside his own bridge. Fear overrode pride. Weapons down. Full retreat. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human ships appeared inside enemy formations, phased through shields like they didn't exist, and demonstrated over and over that they could kill, but chose not to. In every engagement, not a single alien died. But thousands of ships were disabled, their weapons rendered useless by gravitational manipulation, or their engines shut down by precise strikes. Back at the council station, Ambassador Ina watched the battle reports with Wanshik and Yoonji. How many attacks have been stopped? All of them, Wanshik replied, his voice filled with quiet amazement. Not one human colony was damaged. Not one civilian was harmed. And we haven't killed a single alien, despite having every justification to do so. Yoonji was studying the responses from different species. The Ilum are impressed. Their culture values restraint and wisdom. They're seeing humanity in a new light. What about the others? Ina asked. Mixed reactions. The Vareem are confused. The Salth are humiliated. Several smaller species are terrified. But fear and humiliation can be overcome. What we're showing them is that humanity isn't just powerful. We're responsible with that power. The council chamber had fallen silent as the delegates watched the same battle reports. The attempted assault had failed completely, and humanity had won without killing anyone. The Ilum representative pulsed with a color pattern that translated as deep thought. When it spoke, its voice carried weight that made others listen. I must make a confession. We Ilum are the oldest species in this chamber. We have existed for 40 million years. In that time, we have seen thousands of civilizations rise and fall. We have explored galaxies beyond this one, and we have found ruins, technologies, and mysteries that we ourselves do not understand. The other delegates turned to stare at the Ilum. This was not information that had ever been shared publicly. We believed, the Ilum continued, that we had reached the peak of knowledge, that our age gave us wisdom. But humanity has reminded us of a truth we forgot. Evolution never stops. Understanding never ends. There is always more to learn, always higher peaks to climb. We have grown complacent, and that complacency has made us arrogant. Crystallis, the Vorim leader, shifted on its throne. Its crystalline body rang with a sound like distant bells. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we have been wrong about many things, the Ilum replied. Wrong about humanity. Wrong about younger species. Wrong about believing we had nothing left to learn. The humans could have destroyed our fleets. They could have used this moment to conquer. Instead, they saved our crews and asked for dialogue. That is not the action of a species seeking domination. That is the action of a species seeking partnership. Ina felt hope rising in her chest. This was the opening she needed. Humanity offers the Galactic Council a new arrangement. We want full membership, not as junior members, but as equals. We want the Galactic Accord rewritten to protect younger species from exploitation. And we want to establish a new institution for collaborative research, where all species can study together and learn from each other. And what do you offer in return? Asked a delegate from one of the smaller species. Ina took a breath before answering. This was the part that would shock them most. We will share the principles of dark matter manipulation with any species willing to work toward mutual understanding. Not the weapons, but the science. We will teach what we have learned. The chamber erupted in shocked voices again, but this time the tone was different. Not anger or fear, but amazement and hope. 3 months after the confrontation, the reformed Galactic Assembly held its first official meeting. The old council chamber had been redesigned, with 30 thrones instead of 12. The elder species still had their places, but now they were joined by representatives from younger civilizations, including humanity. Commander Dae-hyun, now promoted to Galactic Ambassador, stood before the assembly to deliver his first official speech. He wore a new uniform, one that combined elements of Earth's diplomatic corps with symbols representing the entire human species. Behind him, displayed on massive screens, were images of the new collaborative research stations being built throughout the galaxy. Honored delegates, he began. 3 months ago, the galaxy stood on the edge of war. Today, we stand on the edge of something far greater, true cooperation. Humanity revealed its dark matter fleet not to threaten, but to ensure we would be heard, and you listened. For that, we are grateful. In the audience, Ji-woo sat with a group of alien scientists. She had been appointed to lead the Foundation for Advanced Sciences, the new institution that would study dark matter and other advanced technologies. Beside her were researchers from the Vorim, the Ilum, and half a dozen other species, all eager to learn and share knowledge. The Foundation has accepted its first class of students, Ji-woo whispered to her colleague, a Vorim named Shimmer. 200 researchers from 30 different species. They'll study together, learn together, maybe even make breakthroughs together. Shimmer's crystalline body glowed softly. I never thought I would see this day. My species believed we had learned everything there was to know about physics. The humans proved us wrong, but they did it with humility. They offered to teach us. That is something I will never forget. On Earth, Director Tae-sung walked through the Dark Matter Initiative facility with a group of visitors. These were military, leaders from allied alien species, here to observe human technology and discuss defense cooperation. The secrecy was over. The hidden project had become a bridge between civilizations. The dark matter generators work by aligning quantum fields with the underlying structure of space-time, Taesung explained, gesturing to a massive machine that hummed with barely contained energy. It took us 20 years to understand the principles. With collaborative research, future discoveries might take only a few years. Young Mi was with him, answering technical questions about ship design. She had become something of a celebrity among alien engineers who marveled at the elegant solutions she had developed. The key was not trying to force dark matter to behave like normal matter, she said. We had to learn to work with its natural properties, flexibility instead of force. In orbit above Earth, the dark matter fleet maintained its vigil, but now the ships were no longer hidden. They patrolled openly, their dark hulls visible to any sensor pointed in their direction. The fleet had become humanity's gift to the galaxy. Proof that younger species could contribute, that age didn't determine value. Admiral Jae-hoon commanded the fleet from his flagship, but his role had changed. Instead of preparing for war, he now coordinated joint training exercises with alien militaries. Ships from different species practiced formations together, learning to work as unified forces rather than rivals. The Salt want to send observers to our next exercise, reported Kyung-soo. They've requested permission to study our tactical doctrines. Jae-hoon smiled. The proud Salt, who had called for war 3 months ago, were now asking to learn from humanity. Pride could be overcome by curiosity, and humiliation could transform into respect. Grant their request, and extend an invitation to their fleet commander. Tell them we'd be honored to share what we know. Ha-eun had become an instructor at the new Joint Pilot Academy. Her students came from across the galaxy, young officers, eager to learn how to fly in ways their species had never imagined. She taught them the basics of phase flying, the delicate balance required to exist partially in dark matter space. Don't fight against the phase shift, she told a young Ilum student who struggled with the controls. You have to feel it, become part of it. Dark matter isn't separate from normal matter, it's another aspect of the same reality. Once you understand that, everything becomes easier. The student, a being of glowing gas named Whisper, managed a successful phase shift for the first time. The joy that radiated from Whisper's containment field needed no translation. In the assembly chamber, Dae-hyun continued his speech. Humanity discovered dark matter technology by accident, but we developed it through determination and cooperation. The ancient station that gave us the initial knowledge was not built by one species. We have studied the ruins carefully, and the evidence is clear. It was a collaborative effort by multiple civilizations. This revelation caused murmurs throughout the assembly. Yoonji, sitting in the human delegation, had been the one to make this discovery. By analyzing the station's architecture and the way different sections were designed, she had realized that no single species could have created it alone. Those ancient civilizations learned the same lesson we are learning now, Dae-hyun said. That cooperation produces greater results than isolation. They left their knowledge as a gift and perhaps as a test. Would those who found it use it to dominate or to uplift? Humanity chose to uplift, and we invite all of you to join us. Won-shik watched the reactions of various delegates, noting which species responded positively and which remained skeptical. His analysis would help shape future diplomatic efforts. Building trust took time, but the foundation had been laid. Captain Byung-ho stood on the bridge of the Shadow Wind, which had been chosen to lead the first joint exploration mission. His crew now included members from 5 different species, all working together to map uncharted regions of the galaxy. The mission would investigate other ancient ruins that the Ilum had mentioned, searching for more lost knowledge. Course laid in for the Andromeda sector, reported his navigator, a Vareem named Crystal Song. Estimated travel time, 6 weeks. Engage dark matter drive, Byung-ho ordered. The ship phased partially out of normal space and accelerated to speeds that conventional vessels couldn't match. But now, instead of using this technology for war, they used it for discovery. Back on Earth, in a park in Seoul where Dae-hyun had played as a child, a new monument had been erected. It showed a dark matter ship rising toward the stars, but at its base were figures representing different species standing together. The inscription read, They feared us because we learned to touch the invisible. But strength without wisdom is meaningless. We chose the harder path, to teach rather than conquer, to share rather than hoard, to build bridges instead of walls. Mincio, a young officer fresh from the academy, stood before the monument with her graduating class. They were the first generation to train in a galaxy where humanity was recognized as an equal. They would never know what it felt like to be dismissed or marginalized. My instructor told me about the old days, Mincio said to her friend, an alien cadet named Flo. When humans had to prove themselves over and over and still weren't taken seriously, Flo, who came from a small species that had also struggled for recognition, nodded their understanding. Things are different now. Better. Because of what your people did. Not just my people, Mincio replied. Everyone who chose to learn instead of fight. Everyone who decided that being different didn't mean being inferior. In the assembly chamber, Dae-hyun concluded his speech. The galaxy stood paralyzed in silence when we revealed our fleet. But that silence was not an ending. It was a beginning. It was the moment when old assumptions died and new possibilities were born. We showed you our strength, but more importantly, we showed you our restraint. True power is not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to choose not to. And true progress comes not from one species standing above others, but from all species standing together. The assembly erupted in approval, voices and sounds from dozens of species creating a harmony that had never existed before. The elder species had learned humility, the younger species had learned confidence, and together they would explore mysteries that none of them could face alone. Jiwoo looked at the dark matter equations displayed on her tablet, formulas that described how reality bent and flowed at its deepest levels. But she also looked at the colleagues beside her, beings who thought in ways she never could, who asked questions she never would have considered. The technology was impressive, but this collaboration was the real breakthrough. Far beyond the assembly station, at the edge of known space, sensors detected new gravitational anomalies. Not threats, but mysteries. Evidence of other ancient stations, other lost civilizations, other technologies waiting to be discovered. The galaxy was larger and stranger than anyone had imagined. Admiral Jae-hoon received the reports and smiled. The dark matter fleet would explore those mysteries, but they wouldn't go alone. Ships from every species would join them, a united force seeking knowledge instead of conquest. The galaxy had stood paralyzed in silence. Now it moved forward together into a future where the impossible became possible, where the young taught the old, and where cooperation triumphed over pride. Humanity had unveiled its dark matter fleet, not to end the old galaxy but to help birth a new one,